And then we'll kick off. So it's Thursday, June 22nd. Today, we are meeting for the Janus community meeting. So again, just as a reminder, this is a community call. So we try not to talk about any productization here of Red Hat or anybody else's products, unless it's just really pretty much generic. So I think the first announcement here is that the showcase is back. So Janus Showcase application, which I think has been down for almost 3 weeks now. A lot of people have put in some good work to get that back up and running. So I know Patrick was one of them. I don't know who else, but thank you to everybody who helped with that. So that's super helpful. Next on the list is Tom. It looks like you want to talk about the governance. And I don't know if I'm frozen or if Tom's frozen.
He looks frozen to me.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. Oh, yeah. See, the devil is here twice now. I see you twice.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the office. You can't expect the Wi-Fi to work.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to start off with the governance document?
Yes, I can. So I'm gonna just share a link in here to put it on the agenda. We have a new governance document, and we would like to shape our community to follow this document. So we have a formal process in place, formal maintainer groups, and really clear structure within the community who has access to what, meaning responsibilities and ownership. We've merged this document, and I've already noticed one typo. So if you want to review a single line fix for the governance document, there's an open pull request for it. And during next week, we will convert our current GitHub teams and code owners files and whatnot to follow this governance doc. So expect by the next week that things may change a bit. If you out of a sudden don't have access to something, you want to have access, or you need to have access, just ping us, me, Serena, Rob, Christoph, Gorkem, anybody, and we can address those concerns, issues. That doesn't mean we're turning anything less transparent or anything, or hiding anything. We're just reviewing who basically has push rights to different repositories, who's assigned as the default owner on certain code changes and whatnot. So basically for individual plugins, for example, we're planning to have different people reviewing it and stuff. So we want to have those reviews addressed out of the box when the PR is opened, instead of either of us going through the PR manually and then assigning people. So that's why we're changing that.
Awesome. Any questions around that? Okay. Thanks, Tom. Okay, Pancho wanted to bring up the fact that there is a breaking change in Backstage and was wondering if anybody else has encountered this. So he's in the car, but I think he can talk anyways.
Yeah. Because the last release of Backstage, they introduced a breaking change. They moved from VM2 to another component. I don't remember the name right now, but it's the first item on the changelog on the new version. The instructions to try to address the breaking change are more related to Ubuntu. And I tried to do that, or try to do something similar on Fedora. I'm using Fedora, but I haven't had luck yet. So I don't know if someone here on the call already had the chance to test the new version, or can help me with some tips on that.
I haven't tested it. I haven't seen, or I haven't worked with that. Maybe somebody. We don't have the showcase or anything like that upgraded to 1.15 yet, right? I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm
So
not
just
sure
to-
either. Jason, have you guys possibly on the services side, have you guys looked into that at all, going up to 115?
We
Yeah,
haven't.
I don't think so because that change also affect I think the pipeline because something else needs to be installed on the base image in order to now to build a backstage. So
Mhm.
it's a hard change.
Okay. We'll definitely need to look into that. So it's not affecting us for Janus plugins at this moment. This is not something that plugins are probably affected by. It's affecting Showcase and instances created on top of it. I think it's 115, not 114.
The other thing is the adoption
Yes.
SIG is
Yes.
today, so we could, I don't know if that's something that we could bring up in the adoption call or not, but maybe it will come up. If we hear anything, we can share it with the team.
Yeah, so it's described in this latest release notes. Yeah, it's talking about scaffolder stuff, so I don't think we've encountered that.
Well, this is William. I don't know whether it was just me, or whether I'm hitting the same issue, but I sort of followed the instructions yesterday for the Janus build, and it broke for me. So I didn't know if there was just an instruction missing in the on the web page or what, but it was sort of breaking on a whole bunch of NPR errors and stuff, so it wouldn't build for me.
Lynn, would you mind filing an issue in the Showcase app?
Yeah, I was
the logs?
gonna do that, and I didn't know whether it was a documentation issue or a bug in the build. So I'll post
Yeah.
it.
If
In
you
either
create an
case,
issue, that would be great, because either way we can fix, yeah.
yeah, we want to fix it in either case, if it's a documentation or a actual build
Yeah.
issue. So yeah.
Yeah. And actually that's a whole nother thing. Our documentation tab inside of our Janus IDP site right now is empty. So if anybody has interest in helping to contribute there, or if you know something would definitely help you, if you create issues saying you wish we had X documented, that will probably also help us trying to get stuff in the queue for that. Thanks, William. Okay, the next item on the list is around the topology plugin. And Jay, I added this, but do you want to talk about, I don't think you have a PR actually. I'm not sure if you have a PR up or not, but I know you've done some cool work there around the pod logs.
PR is up. So I'll just put it in the chat, Selena.
Okay.
So Podlogs has come in as part of Kubernetes backend plugin update on 9.1 or 9.0. And we have incorporated that change in topology plugin as well. So the difference there is they're using proxy backend to access different clusters and get the pod logs to proxy to that. In case of topology, what we are doing different is, we are having a drop-down for containers because one pod can have multiple containers. And depending on the containers, all the logs will be streamed over there. So if you guys want, I can just show it. I have it running with me, or
That would be great if you don't mind.
okay. So I put the PR link in the chat, and I'll be sharing my screen, and quickly we can take a look at that. Just give me a minute. Yes, I hope you all can see my screen. So this is
coming.
Yeah, this is the backstage instance running locally, and I'm into one of the services and topology view already. So if you click on any of these resources, you could see the sidebar. This was already there. Now, what we have added is, if you click on any workload, you can see view log option over here, right here. On clicking on this, will show you the modal, which will have the log streaming. This is using log viewer from backstage core, and this is the dropdown which you're talking about. So one pod can have multiple containers. You can just have to select the other one, and it will show you the logs from that. And this is the regular component features. You can search for anything. And one request which has come already, I didn't see the chat now, but yeah, that is about having the option to download these logs. That is something we'll be adding next on this. So this is watch pretty much, which I wanted to say. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. Anybody have questions on what Jay just showed? All right. We have a few other just like minor housekeeping type things. And then if anybody else wants to add something to the agenda, we can do that as well. But I did just want to share, we have put something new into the community site, which is just a small thing to help us out. We have ability to search the plugins on the plugins page. We also added a filter capability, and we're going to start including our custom actions, right? So inside of Backstage plugins today, we have actions in here as well. And historically, we have not had those actions inside of our plugins page, inside of our community site. So we just put in Paul put that in the filter and search capability. So now we'll start adding those things into this page as well. So we'll get more visibility to the custom actions as well as the plugins, which will be nice. In addition to that, I'm going to go backwards. I just did want to note to everybody that Backstage Con CFP is open now. If you follow that link, you can see it. It is the first day in Chicago of the week of KubeCon. For those of you who might already know, KubeCon CFPs they were due last Sunday, but the Backstage CFPs are open until August 6th. So if anybody's interested in doing something, would be a good time. And then I just put something on here as kind of as a placeholder for DevConf update, because for some reason, I think I heard that there were a couple people there that might have done things around Janus, but I don't know. Because Ridgen's not on. I think he was the one who was presenting there, right? Tom, do you know?
Yes, Regine was presenting there, but since I was not there, I can't.
Oh, you weren't there.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Okay. And he
So-
tried to get in the call a couple times earlier, but he must be having connection problems because he's not on yet. Okay. All right, then I will strike that one. Does anybody else have any topics or anybody looking into creating new plugins that they wanted to chat about or have ideas that they might want to talk about? No? Okay. Well, then if that's the case, I don't think we need to continue the call unless there's anybody else wants to speak up. That was a quick one. No. All right.
I may add a couple of heads ups if we want to, if we really, really want to. So yesterday, the upstream community published first RFC on the declarative UI bits and pieces. It's called, I'm going to pass the link in here. So this is it. It's this RFC, front-end system evolution, that we plan to build upon for our dynamic plugins on the front-end side. And in the meantime, just a quick heads up, David was working very, very heavily and went very deep into Backstage to get this fleshed out very nicely. So he's working on a draft RFC for the backend dynamic plugin. So I assume we will have that out at some point soon, probably sooner than the next community meeting. So maybe David can share a couple of works around it. I think the proposals, the initial drafts are looking very nice. So together with this thing and our updates to the front-end dynamic plugins, we should be very much basically covered on the RFC front for what we want to achieve with dynamically plugging in extensions into Backstage without image rebuilds.
Yeah, you already summarized that. Very good. So I'm not sure I have much to add. Mainly, I just hope to push this RFC or submit that to the upstream repo maybe today, if the very last additions find, especially you, Tom, okay with them. I'm mainly just completing the risk and alternative parts of them. And then that should be it. And sure, the POC implementation behind that is quite advanced, because there was the requirement of really being sure that things we propose are feasible. So we should be able to start bootstrapping some real work on that as soon as there is as the RFC is accepted and agreed upon.
Yeah. So for folks who don't know what this effort is about, right now, basically, if you want to add a plugin into Backstage, you need to install an npm dependency, rebuild your container, redeploy, and whatnot. And it's a tedious process. It requires code changes to enable that plugin and stuff like that. So we're trying to streamline this. And we split this work into basically 3 parts. So one is creating, allowing the UI to be modified declaratively through configuration instead of through code changes in the React code. And then there are 2 parts for dynamic plugins loading, one for the front end, because that requires different build mechanisms to load remote assets and on-demand assets per enabled plugins, and a front end and a backend piece, which on the other hand loads code into the Node.js runtime into that server on the server start, instead of installing dependencies before the container is being built. So we are aiming to have plugins packaged separately from the actual Backstage core, and you can dynamically load them, declare them in the configuration file, and load them on the instance start at this point, either if it's a backend plugin or if it's a front-end plugin. William, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking here.
So in the instructions for the Red Hat Backstage build, says you should set Backstage location equal path to Backstage. And I assumed that that was our Backstage, and therefore that was supposed to point to Backstage Showcase, which is the Docker file in it. Is that correct, or is it supposed to actually be like the actual clone of upstream Backstage?
So for the Red Hat Backstage build, the minimal build, it's building from vanilla. So it's referring to this point that you initiate an instance through the add backstage /create app, basically create a completely vanilla empty instance. And the Backstage Showcase at this point has a specific, a bit different Docker file than we have in the Red Hat Backstage build. I don't know if they are incompatible. I think they should be compatible. They may not result in the very same build result, but in the same image. But it should both should work. If it doesn't, we may need to look into that. But the Red Hat Backstage build by itself is a self-contained thing that is referring to vanilla upstream Backstage instance created fresh from the upstream project that you can populate with your own content from the get-go. The difference there is the Docker file that is provided by the upstream community in their repository is not OpenShift compatible.
So path to Backstage what should that be pointing to?
To the result of, well, it can be a showcase. It can be the showcase Git repository local clone, or
that's what I was doing.
a folder created through running this command, basically, if you're starting from scratch.
I'm starting from scratch. I have a Git clone of Backstage Showcase.
That's not from scratch. That's starting from Backstage
okay.
Showcase. That's starting from the opinionated already configured instance. That should be the proposed way for us. Like that should be the favored approach to starting with Backstage if you ask Janus community. But that shouldn't involve Red Hat Backstage build, because that's for enabling a very minimal Backstage build. So if you want to build a showcase, there's a separate Docker file in the showcase repository for it.
Correct, and that's the one I was trying to build. So if I am, again, if I'm trying to do the Red Hat Backstage build and I point to home Henry Git Backstage Showcase as my location, and I give it an image name, should the build work with podman build, etc., -t image backstage location, like with these instructions that are on the Backstage build page?
I'm not sure what a Backstage build page is at this moment, but Red Hat Backstage build repository is a separate thing from Backstage Showcase. So if you want to build Showcase, you can right away just from the Showcase repository. You clone just the Showcase repository, no other repository needed, and there's a Docker file in the root that you can use.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. So the Red Hat Backstage build repository is meant to be self-contained for people starting from upstream minimal application. If you want to get completely vanilla Backstage running on OpenShift, compared to Showcase, which is opinionated pre-configured. We may have some confusion around these things, so we may need to clear that up in our documentation, definitely.
Right. Any other questions? Tom, do you have any other little tidbits you could share? Are we done?
No.
All right.
I'm done.
Okay. All righty. Well, we almost made a half an hour, so great. So thanks, everybody. Again, remember, Janus Showcase app is back up and running. I think they're starting to add more plugins in there as well, if I'm not mistaken. In our documentation, it does say what community plugins are already preloaded in the Janus Showcase application as well. So keep an eye out for that. We also have a number of PRs coming up for additional plugin work. Oh, one more thing that I don't think I mentioned was Ryan did put in a PR, and I think it was merged for the, is it Ansible Jobs software template? Let me see if I can just find that super quickly, because I know that there have been some people that have been interested in that previously. It is Ansible Jobs. So here is, this would also be interesting. I wonder if it's worth us, having an index of the Golden Path templates that we have available in our Showcase application. I guess I'm just going to say here, if anybody thinks that would be interesting. No, I'm not in our Showcase app. I'm sorry, in our community site. If anybody thinks that that is of interest, let us know, because we can put that in as a little bit of a catalog as well, right?
I think that's a great idea, because it's an asset that the community produces, so we should advertise it. I'm all for it.
Perfect. All right. then I will put an issue in to get that set up in our site, and then we can start adding those as well. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Have a good rest of your week, and I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.